Welcome back to the Health Revival Show. Today we are welcoming Catharine Arnston. She is the founder, CEO, and chief scientist at ENERGYbits, makers behind the small but mighty algae tablets. So we are going to talk all about the recent findings of the potent superfood in ENERGYbits and how they can be simple, effective solution for supporting your mitochondria. But we're going to dive in today to so many more things related to brain health, the gut microbiome, of course, and even hormones. So, Catharine, welcome to the show. Share a little bit about your story and how you got here, how you discovered
I
algae
know algae
with our
is not on everyone's radar, that's for sure. It certainly wasn't on mine either. I'm Canadian by birth. My family's still in Canada. I live currently now in Florida. Um, I have an MBA and was doing international business. And then 17 years ago, my younger sister, who I'm very close to, developed breast cancer. And we're recording during October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So it's probably a good time to be talking about it. First of all, I want everyone to know she did heal and recover completely. But her oncologist, which of course is a cancer specialist, told her as she was preparing for chemo, she needed to change her diet to an alkaline diet because it would be important for her healing. Now, her oncologist, fortunately, was a woman, and women tend to be a little bit more open to nutritional interventions. So we're very lucky that she told her that. Didn't tell her exactly what an alkaline diet was. So my sister called me. I didn't know either. Went on Google, found out it was mostly a plant based diet. And it was the phytonutrients and the chlorophyll that have been proven to build your immune system. And she wanted her to have a strong immune system as she was going through chemo. But as I did some research on this alkaline diet stuff, I discovered that there was a German scientist by the name of Otto Warburg who won a Nobel Prize in Germany back in the 30s for discovering that cancer cannot exist in cells that are alkaline. So I have to believe this is the other reason why my sister's oncologist wanted her to have an alkaline diet. Anyways, I did some research for her. She did go through chemo. She completely changed her diet to an alkaline diet. So she completely healed. Meanwhile, I learned about plant-based nutrition, saw the power, the healing power that it held, wondered why nobody else knew about it, thought I would be the one to tell people about it. I gave up my 25-year corporate career, went back to school, studied nutrition at a place called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and then I put a curriculum together teaching people about the importance of eating more alkaline plant-based foods. And this is what truly led me to algae, because as I was trying to teach people the importance of eating more veggies and more salads, people kept saying, well, it's too hard to cook them and clean them and carry them home from the grocery store. And I throw half of them out and my kids won't eat them. So there were a lot of obstacles to help for people to eat vegetables. So I thought, okay, I've seen the science of the importance of the nutrition found in plant-based foods. And if it's too much of a problem for people to eat vegetables, I need to find a way to get them the nutrition in a way that's effortless, safe, doesn't taste bad, doesn't go bad, yada, yada, yada. So I just looked at everything I'd found for my sister in a deeper way. And when I got to algae, that's when the miracle happened. Because first of all, algae is a food, or I'll talk about that in a minute. It's not a supplement. It does exist in the oceans and the lakes and streams and the soil, but it's harvested as a food crop in Asia, where, by the way, they've been taking it daily for over 60 years. It's a multi-billion-dollar agricultural crop there. Algae is also endorsed by the United Nations as the answer to world hunger because it has the highest protein in the world, 3 times the amount of protein as steak. It's endorsed by NASA as being the most nutrient-dense food in the world. It has 1,000 times more nutrition than any other food, according to NASA. There's 100,000 studies documenting the health benefits of spirulina and chlorella, which are the 2 algae I'll talk about. And the most important part of all of this, which was the mic drop for me, is that they come in the algae. You grow it, you dry it, and then you compress it into these little tiny tablets about the size of a baby aspirin. And when you take each one of these tablets has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. So you can chew them, you can swallow them, you can add them to a smoothie, you can add them to trail mix. But while I just was talking to you, I just had the equivalent of an entire plate of vegetables. So now people can get all of the green nutrition that they need for them, their children, their pets, their grandparents, effortlessly in seconds. They last, the expiry date is 3 years, so they don't go bad like your cucumbers or your tomatoes. There is 0 taste if you swallow them. I prefer to chew them. So if you don't like the flavor of greens, problem solved. It takes seconds. If you can swallow water, we recommend 10 tablets of spirulina in the morning, maybe 10 at night for chlorella. More is better, but we'll talk about that later on. Seconds. We're not talking dragging home big bags of groceries, throwing them into the fridge, trying to clean them, cook them, eat them, throw them out when nobody eats them. None of that. So it saves you time. It saves you money because it replaces most of your supplements. It can replace protein. It can replace your veggies. So you don't have to, if you don't like veggies or you're traveling, or they give you gas. A lot of people get gas from vegetables as they get older. This is the answer: 40 vitamins and minerals, 3 times the amount of protein as steak, highest chlorophyll in the world, and effortless to take. So when I realized that, I thought, we have to get algae out to America. Everybody in Asia knows about it, but people outside of Asia don't know anything about it. They know it's a superfood, but they don't know exactly what it does or why it does what it does. And so I did a deep dive on the science. I actually got my PhD in natural health last year because I had learned so much. And I want people to understand how game changing these algae can be for your life. And they do completely different things. Spirulina and chlorella are the two main algae. And we'll talk about the difference between the two of them. One's a blue green algae, the other one's a green algae, and they work beautifully together. But that's how I found algae. It actually found me.
All right, if you're dealing with water retention, you're waking up puffy, your ankles or your wrists are really swollen, or you can't get your rings off, and maybe you're even dragging throughout the day, no matter how much water you drink, there's actually a good chance that you're not actually hydrating properly.
Exactly, because water alone is not enough. You need electrolytes, you need sodium, potassium, magnesium, because those things actually pull water into your cells. Otherwise, you're basically just flushing it out and wondering why you're still tired, you're still bloated, and you're still sluggish.
But here's the thing, most electrolyte supplements out there aren't helping you in any way because a lot of them contain things like natural flavors, food dyes, and maltodextrin, which can irritate your gut. And these things can also spike your blood sugar when you're trying to heal.
That's why we both started using Buoy. It's super simple, just trace minerals and electrolytes in liquid form. No flavors, no colors, no sugar, no sweeteners, and you squeeze it into whatever you are drinking: water, coffee, tea, smoothies, you name it.
And it's clinically backed by science too. So studies have shown that Buoy helps you hydrate better, 64% better in fact, and that's data coming from key blood and urinary markers, not just marketing fluff. And honestly, you can feel the difference. I've had many clients tell me their digestion's improved, they have less headaches, and they're better energy throughout the day.
And Buoy isn't just for people that go to the gym all the time and sweat a bunch. They actually offer a 35% lifetime discount for anyone that's struggling with chronic illnesses. Things like POTS, Hashimoto's, Crohn's disease, chronic migraines, and every autoimmune condition. They're really committed to making better hydration accessible to people who need it most.
I actually throw it in my coffee every morning because it's such an easy upgrade. You don't even taste it, but you're definitely gonna notice if you miss it.
If you're tired of playing hydration roulette and want something that actually supports your body, you've got to try Buoy. It's honestly one of the simplest ways to feel better faster. So I'd love for you to talk about then, one, I know that the way that these things are grown is important. So how do you know if what you are consuming, other like obviously go and get ENERGYbits, but how do you know if you're not getting ENERGYbits that it is properly sourced and grown and, made how it's supposed to be? And then the difference between the spirulina and the chlorella. And I'd love for you to add on, if you can, I see chlorella water a lot.
Well,
And now I know
you probably see chlorophyll water.
uh, it's
Chlorophyll water, yeah,
chlorophyll.
but
Like I've seen some
there are
chlorella too.
droppers of,
Droppers.
yeah,
Yeah.
Chlorophyll. Yeah, well, and I can walk you through all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I'd love for you to kind of expand a little on what it is.
yeah, yeah. So the first question about the quality, it's very, very difficult. The vast majority of spirulina and chlorella that are sold outside of Asia, they keep the good stuff. It's like the French, they keep the good wine for themselves, and in Asia, they keep all the good stuff for themselves. The vast majority of what's sold in America and anywhere outside of Asia is grown in grown in India or China. And the vast majority of it is grown by contract manufacturers for vitamin companies that sell anywhere from 10 to 100 other products. So there's not a lot of attention given to how these things are harvested, grown, dried, etc. And that's one of the things when I realized how valuable the nutrition was, but that it had to be grown and dried properly in order to preserve the nutrition. I realized I needed to have my own brand. And so Taiwan, which is where we grow ours, I do plan to grow it in America, in Florida, actually, because it has Florida has the same climate as Taiwan. Taiwan is known as the gold standard for spirulina and chlorella. So the first thing is you should check to see where the algae is grown. If it comes from China or India, I would just say be very cautious because, and if it's a cheaper, lower priced algae, also be very cautious. And why is that? Well, the lower priced products are generally made by these large supplements companies who don't pay a lot of attention. And so they're very profit driven. And one of the ways they make more money is to get everything to market quickly. And with algae, you grow it and then you have to dry it. And then you press them into these little tablets. Well, most other companies use high heat to dry it. It's just the most efficient way to do it. The trouble is, high heat kills enzymes. Anything over 114 Fahrenheit, whether you're cooking broccoli at home or you're drying algae for tableting. And so there's some really critical nutrients. There's an antioxidant. It's a very long word. You probably never heard of it, but it's very important. It's called superoxide dismutase. We'll talk about that later on. It's also known as SOD. It is essential for your mitochondrial health, and your mitochondrial health are essential for your health. Doesn't matter whether it's hormone health, brain health, gut health, mitochondria are where the rubber hits the road. And so it needs this particular antioxidant because your body stops making it for you after the age of 40, which is why almost all chronic diseases and things, all these symptoms from menopause crush us, particularly women after the age of 40. We'll talk about that more. But anyway, so when you use high heat, you deactivate all these critical enzymes, pigments. So it's like getting a great deal on a car, except you lift the hood and there's no engine in there. Looks great, great price, won't perform. The reason why people love our product so much and why we sell through doctors' offices is because we grow it so carefully. First of all, we grow it in triple filtered spring mountain water. Why is that important? Because algae will absorb whatever's in the water. So if there's toxins in the water, they're going to be in your algae. It's just that's why you never want algae grown in a lake. There's a company that grows it in the Klamath Lake. Please don't use that, or the ocean, because you can't keep toxins out of wild bodies of water. So first of all, our water is very pure. Then we don't use high heat and we don't put any binders into it when we. So our algae is raw. It's the spirulina is also a live food. Chlorella, we have to crack the cell wall, and I'll explain that in a minute. So it's not live, but it's still raw. And we do third-party lab tests here in the United States because the other problem with and algae, as I mentioned, is a food. In fact, here's a picture of some of the algae farms. This is a spirulina farm. This is a chlorella farm. Fresh water. Anyways, when you grow the algae and then you dry it and then you tablet it, so we dry it into a powder and then we press them into these little tablets. You need to be sure that all the nutrients are there. And they've done studies that show that a vast majority, like almost over 50% of supplements, when they actually test to see if the nutrients that are on the label are actually in there, they're not. So all of ours are, and we provide all these third-party lab tests that cost us tens of thousands of dollars every year. We provide them to our doctors. We do tests for microtoxins. Of course, we never have any. So our nutrient density is higher, which gives it a much higher efficacy, which is why one tablet can give you the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. And that was using that quote from NASA. It said 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits or vegetables. So very, very, very efficient nutrition. And importantly, it's not just what you eat, it's what you absorb. And the great thing about algae, particularly spirulina, and I'll go through the difference between the two, spirulina and chlorella next, very, very bioavailable, particularly when it comes to the amino acids, because your body can't absorb protein in that form. It has to break it down into amino acids. And for animal protein, that could take up to 3 days. With spirulina and chlorella, it takes seconds if you chew it, minutes if you swallow it. And it has 18 of the 20 aminos, including the 9 your body can't make. So the absorption rate is very high, not just for the aminos, but also for all the other nutrients, if it's high quality. But if you have the high heat drying it, you've lost a lot of the nutrients. So you'll need more, and you just won't get the same benefits. So that's why ours is highly regarded because of the efficacy and the safety. You don't want to take algae and then end up putting toxins into your body when it's supposed to be taking them out.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you covered the testing and especially for mycotoxins and everything as well, because we deal a lot with mold illness. We just did a big podcast. I'm doing a live this evening on mold, but I was curious. So you mentioned I mean, a couple of things here just to clarify. I don't think that she's saying that you should never eat fruits and vegetables
No, no,
again,
no, no,
right?
no,
This
no.
is supplemental and very helpful for kiddos as well. But can you touch on the heat aspect? Because I think that this is really important when we think about roasting vegetables, air frying vegetables, right? Many people are putting them at these high temperatures. What is the temperature that we start to lose some of the nutrients?
114 Fahrenheit. So the best thing would be to steam your vegetables. So
Hmm.
you're softening them because it also makes it easier to digest. And some vegetables actually, I'm not an expert in that category, but some vegetables actually have higher absorption rate and therefore have higher efficacy when they are cooked. They release certain enzymes. So, but that's not my particular specialty. All I know when it comes to algae, because it's food and it has the same high heat, deactivates enzymes. And I also have science that shows it deactivates pigments, like the blue one in spirulina. Spirulina is called a blue-green algae because it has two pigments. The first pigment is chlorophyll, and we're going to talk about chlorophyll in a minute. Um, and the second pigment is a blue pigment that doesn't exist anywhere else in nature, only in spirulina. It's called phycocyanin. That's spelled with a PHY, PHYCOCONONIN. Anyways, this is the pigment that's proven to kill cancer cells, and I can walk you through one of the science papers about that. So heating at high temperatures causes your food to lose important enzymes, and enzymes are critical for your body to function properly, to allow different things to occur. And one of the enzymes that I'll talk about in length in a minute is this one called superoxide dismutase, which is not only an enzyme, it's an antioxidant that protects your mitochondria from free radical damage. And the free radical is called superoxide. So, and it's only in the mitochondria. So this particular antioxidant is essential for longevity, preserving your health, reducing any kind of disease, and helping you get higher energy mentally, physically, and at the cellular level.
Yeah, we run genetic testing frequently with our clients, and the SOD2 gene, when it is blocked fully, we know that that person is probably not endogenously creating antioxidants at a
Yeah.
very good level. And then you add being older and losing that ability to internally do it, you need to get them from the outside sources and exogenous. So, one thing that I would love to have you kind of break down, because when we think about the cell and kind of like the redox balance of the cell, right? And you don't want too many antioxidants, but you don't want no antioxidants, right? You need kind of that balance, because if we have too many, you start to actually suppress the immune system. And
Right.
so these having the power of like one tablet being a whole plate of vegetables, and you mentioned, if I didn't mishear, taking 10 of them in the morning and 10 of them at night, like is that potentially too much in
Oh
terms of
God,
the
that's just the
antioxidant?
starter amount. Yeah, I have first of all, I'm turning 70. That's 70 this coming year.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I have had probably 100 a day every day for the last 15 years, maybe about half spirulina, half chlorella. So I know I'm only a sample size of one, but I take no medications. I take no other supplements. I have no health conditions. I sleep well. I poop well. I run a company. I travel nonstop. I just got my PhD. Everything seems to be working. And granted, I live a pretty good life of, balance and exercise, but I have two sisters and they're aging and they've both had cancer now. I haven't any of their issues, zero. So I'm just saying that 10, the size of a baby aspirin. So, and you can chew them. Like I said, I chew them all day long. I put sea salt on them. They're like a snack. And people go, 10 tablets. Like, oh my God. But I say, well, you never just have one nut, right? You have a handful of nuts. So think of these as, we call them bits because they're bits of food. They're bits of nutrition. And when you mix them with pistachio nuts, oh my God, absolutely delicious. So think of them like
Mhm.
a trail mix if you want to, or throw them in your smoothie. So for therapeutic amounts, we recommend 30 of the tablets. 10 is like your starter amount. In fact, we made some really cute animated characters. It's gonna try
Got
to
it.
find one.
So it looks like each bag comes with about 1,000 tablets.
Yes,
Um, or a
yes.
large bag comes with 1,000 tablets. So if you were to do, the starting dose of 20 per day, you're lasting about 50 days or so, like 2
Yeah.
months
So
supply.
if you took 10 tablets a day, which is I said your starter, a bag of 1,000 will last 3 months because you're taking. Now, if you have a health condition, cancer, heart disease, chronic disease, metabolic issues, brain fog, weight gain, anything you want for correction, we definitely recommend 30 spirulina tablets throughout the day. You could have 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon, 10 at lunch. You could have 30. They also come in little pouches of 30. You could have 30 for lunch, 1 calorie per tablet. If you're traveling, people love these for traveling. They throw them in their gym bag, their travel bag, their handbag, or for lunch. We work with a lot of doctors and other professionals. They see so many
Mhm.
patients throughout the day, they just don't have time to eat, but they need energy and that's why, and spirulina, we call it energy bits because it does give you energy. It gives you mental energy and physical energy, both because it has the highest protein in the world, 3 times as steak, as I mentioned. Ours is 64% protein, and it's loaded with B vitamins. B vitamins convert the protein into glucose, and which then gets into your bloodstream. And it also has the very highest amount of superoxide dismutase, which protects the mitochondria, so it can generate, because the mitochondria generate the cellular energy. So the energy you get is not like from a stimulant like caffeine, chemicals, or sugar, where you get a burst of energy and then a crash. Sort of like when you put paper on a fire. This is like putting a log on the fire. You might not even notice the energy because your body can't store ATP. It's used in the moment. So if you take 20 and you sit on the sofa, you just won't be hungry and you'll feel fatigued. But if you took 20 and then went for a run, you would run faster, further, and not even notice it. So it gets deployed in the moment of whatever it is that you're doing. But it's
Yeah.
at the
Can you
cellular level.
explain the difference between the
Yes,
spirulina
yes,
and the chlorella?
yes. And then we'll do a deep dive into mitochondria because I do love talking about that. So spirulina is what's called a cyanobacteria, which, by the way, was the first life on Earth almost 4 billion years ago. So it's a bacteria. It's not even a plant. It doesn't have a cellulose wall. By the way, because nobody really knows why that first cyanobacteria showed up, but it did, and it was like spirulina. I think there's something spiritual about being the first life on Earth. So I now call spirulina spiritualina because I think it's pretty cool. But nonetheless, it's what's called a blue-green algae. As I mentioned, has 2 pigments in it. What does it do? It gives your body energy through the high protein, which converts because of the B vitamins. It also gives you brain energy because of the high essential fatty acids. Your brain is very high in fat. It has very high iron. Iron is what carries oxygen in your hemoglobin. And the blue pigment, which I mentioned earlier, phycocyanin, it is a helper molecule. It speeds up a helper molecule in what's called the electron transport chain. This is where the actual energy is created in the mitochondria. And so the blue pig, it's really cool because in a healthy cell, the blue pigment in spirulina speeds up this little helper cell, which is called cytochrome C, so that the electrons can move faster along the electron transport chain, which generates more energy. However, in a senescent cell, which is a cell that is unhealthy and should die, or a cancer cell, the blue pigment detects that it's an unhealthy cell. And instead of speeding up that little cytochrome C molecule, it ejects it, which triggers something called capases, which triggers something called apoptosis, which kills the cell. And we could talk more about that later on. So I call spirulina intelligent food because you have to be intelligent to take it and it knows what to do in your body. But basically, you get energy, mental focus, physical energy, satisfies your hunger with high protein, 40 vitamins and minerals, high chlorophyll. And when we finish up the comparison, I'll give you a better understanding and a deeper dive into the mitochondria and what this particular nutrient in here called superoxide dismutase does to enhance and protect the mitochondria so it can generate more cellular energy, so you will have more energy mentally, physically, and to protect your health and your longevity. So very nourishing, very energizing, nutrients in, usually in the morning or afternoon. Chlorella is a green algae and it does belong to the plant kingdom. I designed all the packaging. So I put a plant on the packaging. And it evolved on Earth about 1 billion years after spirulina. Now, chlorella does not give you energy, does not satisfy your hunger. It is a wellness, detoxing, gut health algae. Spirulina is an energizing, nourishing brain health algae. Why do I say brain health? Because as you'll find out in a minute, this particular antioxidant, superoxide dismutase, heals the mitochondria, and your brain has the most mitochondria, has 2 million per cell. So the first thing that heals when you're healing your mitochondria is your brain. Brain fog gone, depression, all any kind of mental disorders. There's a great book by Dr. Chris Palmer called Brain Energy. And he's a psychiatrist and a member of the medical school at Harvard. And in his book, he talks about how all brain issues are ultimately due to damaged mitochondria. So because this spirulina heals the mitochondria, the first thing it heals is your brain. Chlorella heals your gut. How does it do that? Well, first of all, it has fiber because it belongs to the plant kingdom. What does your gut biome need? Fiber to feed those healthy bacteria. It also has the highest chlorophyll in the world. Spirulina has the highest protein in the world. What does chlorophyll do? Well, first of all, it kills bad bacteria. First, it feeds the healthy bacteria with the fiber, kills the bad bacteria, and it builds your blood. How does it do that? Well, the chemical composition of chlorophyll is almost identical to your hemoglobin. The only difference is chlorophyll has a magnesium atom in the middle, and your hemoglobin has iron. This is what carries oxygen. So chlorella is called chlorella because of the chlorophyll concentration. There is nothing in the world with more chlorophyll than chlorella. It has 25 times more chlorophyll than even liquid chlorophyll, like the drops, and it has 500
Mhm.
times more than arugula or any plant. There's nothing with more chlorophyll. So chlorophyll kills bad bacteria and it builds your blood. So very, very nourishing. Now that hard cell wall that has the fiber in it has some unique characteristics. It attaches to toxins and chelates them, which means it pulls them out. So it attaches to lead, mercury, radiation, all heavy metals, glyphosate, pesticide, mold. You were talking about mold. I had
Mhm.
I had mold. I had Epstein-Barr from the mold, and I doubled down on the chlorella. And my functional medicine doctor said she's never seen anybody recover from mold as fast as I had, and it's because I took so many of these things. Because this gets rid of the mold toxicity. It was pretty crazy. So I know firsthand about mold. So the hard cell wall attaches to alcohol, lactic acid. Athletes love this as a post workout, and they use spirulina as a pre workout because it gives them energy mentally, physically, and keeps them focused, whatever their sport is. So, chlorella also has the highest tryptophan in the world, which is a precursor to melatonin, which helps you sleep, and also serotonin, which is your happy brain neurotransmitter. Why do I mention that? Because when you are sleeping, this is when your body goes through a detox and repair. So, chlorella has something called chlorella growth factor, which speeds up the growth of your cells and it stimulates the sleep, getting into deep sleep. So, generally, we recommend chlorella before bed or after meals or after workouts, but certainly before bed, because then your detox and repair will be better. While you're getting your beauty rest, you're getting rid of all the aluminum and toxins in your brain and your cells. And it stimulates something called peristalsis, also known as a
Mhm.
bowel movement. You need to get rid of your toxins. The average adult in America apparently has 700 toxins in them, and you do it through sweat, breath, urine, and bowel movements. So, this is so important for bowel movements. I tell people you got to get rid of the junk in your trunk because what's sitting in
Mhm.
your colon is stuff your body didn't want. And if you don't get rid of it, it's like having a garbage truck parked in front of your house permanently, right? And the blood will circulate around and pull all the toxins that are still sitting there. This is why colon cancer is on the rise. There's so many people, if
Mhm.
you're eating dairy, too many carbs, too much sugar, you're stressed, you're traveling, you're not drinking enough water, you're not having enough plants on medication. We just covered about 90% of the world. Everybody's constipated. This will help you and it does it naturally. No drugs. So this eases you into sleep, helps you have a bowel movement the next morning, gets rid of all the toxins while you're getting your beauty rest. It's almost too good to be true. If the science wasn't there and anecdotally it didn't work. So they're quite different. So this is a wellness detox algae, and spirulina is a nourishing, brain energizing algae. So think of it as AM or PM. Spirulina, think as brain food, chlorella as gut food. And of course, they're joined by the vagus nerve where they communicate with one another. And if that still doesn't help you, I travel a lot and I stay at hotels and often I get room service. And so, after room service, I have my eggs and I'm nourished and ready for the day. And I thought, oh, that's sort of like spirulina. So think of spirulina as room service. And then I come back to my room afterwards and the bed is made and the garbage is taken out. And oh, that's sort of like chlorella. It got rid of all the mess. So think of chlorella
Mm.
as housekeeping. So spirulina is room service, chlorella is housekeeping, or brain food, gut food, AM, PM, whatever it takes to help you remember to take them, because you do want to take
Yeah.
them every day. And spirulina, you can eliminate 4 or 5 other supplements. Chlorella, as you pointed out earlier, Liz, I'm not suggesting you eliminate fruits and vegetables. I love fruits and vegetables. But not everybody does, or maybe you don't have any nearby, or maybe as you get older, because I am older, you have compromised digestion. So this can get you the nourishment of vegetables if you don't have the time for them, the taste for them, the digestion for them, or you're just, don't have, you're traveling. So it's a great way to fill in the gaps or replace them if you just simply will not eat vegetables. Mothers go crazy over this stuff because their kids, they never have to worry about their kids getting properly nourished anymore. And the arguments at the dinner tables pretty much go away. By the way, kids love to chew
I
them
love that.
because and turn their tongues green, and they think that's really funny.
Can you go back to the dosing that you mentioned before? Because in our practice, we work a lot with chronic illness. I work a lot with, chronic GI issues, constipation, but also, just ongoing food reactions because of the compromised gut and inflammation. So you said 10 is a starting dose. I'm looking at, okay, if I get a bag that's 1,000, that's supposed to last me 3 months, but hey, I'm in an acute phase. I need to take 30 a day, or are you sometimes going higher? And my follow up question to this would be for that person who is struggling with constipation, they're struggling with brain fog, they're struggling with energy. How quickly are you saying, hey, within the first week, 2 weeks, 30 days, like, are they going to notice some improvement?
Lots of questions. So, spirulina, in 30 minutes, your brain fog will be gone. Your energy will be lifted. We're not talking about, it's not a stimulant, remember. So you're not going to feel like a superhuman jumping off the top of a building. You'll just, how you feel? Fresh. That's it. You
I,
just feel alert. And I don't know about you, but that's how I like to feel every day. And you will notice it the most when you stop taking it. Because you think, oh, this is, it must be, can't possibly be the spirulina. Yes, it is. So, so you will feel something from spirulina within half an hour tops. And it's not a drug, so you don't have to take more the next day. You just take the same amount. And if you're not feeling fresh and alert and hunger satisfied and feel more motivated physically, energetically, take more. And if you want to experiment with taking fewer, try that too. But it's food, so everybody has a little sweet spot. But we found 10 seems to be the number when consistently people are feeling something. Just to let you know, it's food. So you could eat endless plates of broccoli if you wanted, and I would too if they were steamed and had some garlic thrown in
Yeah.
there. But you probably don't want to. You can have as much as you want. We fuel NHL teams, Olympic teams, NFL teams. And the hockey players, they have 75 spirulina before a hockey game. They put it in a smoothie because they need a lot of energy on the ice and they need lots of focus. So that works for them. And then after the hockey game, they take 75 chlorella again in their smoothie to pull out all the lactic acid and to support their immune system. There is literally no upper dose. I wouldn't suggest more than 100. By the way, when you get into over 30, your poop will be a little green because the chlorophyll, only 10% of it is absorbed in your stomach. I found this great chart that shows where the spirulina nutrients there. Some of it's absorbed in your stomach, some of it's in your lower intestine. So a lot of the chlorophyll moves all the way through your liver and your colon, which is where it's killing bad bacteria and absorbing toxins. And so it comes out in your poop. So it will look dark. Don't worry, don't panic. It's just the chlorophyll, but it means that it's working. So if you
Yeah.
have a health condition, you can take as much as you want. We have a lot of people, if they're doing chemotherapy, they don't want to eat. Well, you could just swallow these things and you'll still get the nourishment and you don't have to go through that, you know, it almost feels disgusting to eat. And yet they need something. Same with people on GLP-1, they're not eating. Your cells still need to be nourished. So please,
Mhm.
if you're on GLP-1, please take spirulina every day. You can swallow them. It won't affect your, it won't make you feel awful. It'll make you feel great, actually. And at least you're getting nourishment to your cells because your cells are always building, they're always turning over. So we want to be sure people are kept healthy. So for therapeutic amounts, 30, you could do 40. We recommend chlorella for sure when you're taking chemotherapy. Take it the day after your chemotherapy because we want it to work. It will pull the excess chemotherapy out so you're not nauseous. How fabulous is that? So it works. The United Nations used it at Chernobyl to pull out radiation. After the Fukushima disaster in Japan 10 years ago or 8 years ago, the entire global supply of chlorella was bought up within 24 hours because they know it's the only thing that truly pulls out radiation. So, really great for helping people through their chemotherapy treatments. So,
What
no
about when
limit,
people are
but be aware that I will say spirulina, because it's so high in protein, you will want to take more water to help so it doesn't cause constipation. Chlorella is the only one that triggers the bowel movements, not spirulina.
so what about people that are on chemo medications? So people that are on like daily chemo medications, is it still okay to take the chlorella? Obviously, there's a different mechanism there in terms of lower dose chemo and not like a high, really abrupt
Yeah.
amount like there is with, you know, radiation therapy.
Well, I would, we always want people to follow their medical advisor's advice. But if you're not feeling well, I think it might be worth experimenting. Obviously, communicate with your doctor what you'd like to do. And if it helps and it keeps them gives them a better quality of life and still allows the medicine to do what it needs to do, I would think that would be a good compromise. But if, I'm not a physician and I'm certainly not any patient's physician. So I would leave
Yeah.
that choice up to the patient and their medical advisor. Yeah,
No, for sure. I'm thinking in particular, my dad has Parkinson's and cancer, and I've thought about with the spirulina in particular, with the mitochondria in the brain and supporting obviously energy production because it's such a cognitive related
absolutely.
disorder. But he is on chemotherapy drugs daily. So I don't know if the chlorella, I would need to obviously his doctors are not the most open-minded.
Yeah.
So I've had to
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
bring some argument.
in cases like that, if it's not to counterbalance the sickness from the chemo, I would absolutely get them on spirulina. Spirulina is not a chelator. It has chlorophyll, which is cleansing, and it's the one that works the best for the brain because of the mitochondria. And I don't know if you want me to dig into the mitochondria piece now because I am just over the moon about helping people understand how the mitochondria work and why spirulina in particular has these nutrients found naturally that do so much for our brain and for our mitochondria. And in fact, before I do that, I'll tell you why I think it's so powerful. Remember, I mentioned that spirulina was the first life on Earth because it was a cyanobacteria. Well, the cyanobacteria, after a billion years, it generated ATP, it generated oxygen, which allowed larger molecules to form, which were aerobic, because the first one was anaerobic, because there was no oxygen on Earth, but it didn't generate ATP as well. So the larger molecule absorbed the smaller molecule, which then turn into our mitochondria. And it's all proven by an MIT professor called endosymbiotic theories. Here we have the original single cell organism growing 4 billion years ago. Then the bigger cells started showing up. They absorbed the smaller cell. And instead of digesting it, it coexisted and became our mitochondria. This tells me two things. First of all, the reason why this superoxide dismutase, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is so powerful is because we all know that free radicals cause inflammation and free radicals are damaging. And we also know that antioxidants usually neutralize free radicals, right? blueberries, vitamin C. The problem is the mitochondria have two membranes, not just a lipid membrane. It has a second inner membrane that virtually no antioxidants can get in there. You could eat a room full of blueberries, not a drop of antioxidants will get into that inner membrane because that inner membrane is left over from the days when it was a single cell organism before it got absorbed by the bigger molecule. So there are a handful of antioxidants that can get into that inner membrane, and chlorophyll, glutathione, and superoxide dismutase are three of them, and algae has the highest concentration of all three, but particularly this one called superoxide dismutase. And why is this superoxide dismutase so important? Well, in that inner membrane of the mitochondria, this is where your ATP is produced, and I'm going to show you exactly how it's produced in a minute. And the mitochondria have their own DNA, which is located also right there where the ATP is produced, which means it's also located exactly where free radicals are produced because free radicals are a byproduct of ATP. So your mitochondria DNA are constantly exposed to free radicals that are a byproduct of ATP production. And most antioxidants can't get in there to neutralize them. And the name for the free radical that's in that mitochondria is called superoxide. And it's the most damaging free radical because it has 3 unpaired electrons. So this stuff called superoxide dismutase means to decrease, is what neutralizes that free radical and turns it into harmless water and oxygen. So your mitochondria don't get damaged. So everything works beautifully from the moment you're born because your body makes this stuff for you, just like it makes hormones and melatonin. It makes it until about the age of 30, 35. By the time you're 40, and certainly 45, your body has slowed down and virtually stopped the production of superoxide dismutase. This is because historically we've been on Earth for 2 million years, and historically up until about 200 years ago, we died around the age of 30. We are evolutionarily, biologically pre-programmed to die around 30. So Mother Nature is always efficient. So our bodies think we're dying at 30, so it slows down everything. It slows down estrogen. You're not going to need to make babies if you're dead. You're not going to need melatonin. You're not going to need superoxide dismutase. So it's just biologically programmed that our superoxide dismutase, which has protected our mitochondria all of our life until the age of 35, starts to decrease. And guess what? All these health issues, chronic disease, weight gain, metabolic disorder, brain fog, the symptoms from menopause all kick in around 40, which is exactly when your mitochondria no longer have the protection of the superoxide dismutase, except you'll find it in the highest concentration in the world in algae. But I want to first help you understand what's really going on when your mitochondria get damaged. So if you'll bear with me, I want you to, it's a bit of a science lesson, but this will help make it easy for you to understand what's happening. Because I found when people don't understand something, it becomes fearful. And so if they understand something, it's much easier for them to say, oh, okay, I get it. So now I know what to do. So the way we talk about cellular energy, we're talking about ATP, but how is it actually made? Well, it's made very similarly to a process that you would see in a relay race. You've seen a relay race, you have a runner and they have a baton, and they pass the baton to the next runner, who then runs a distance, pass the baton to the next runner, and they hopefully win the race. They cross the finish line. Well, there's something called the electron transport chain. And instead of runners, you have these protein molecules. And instead of a baton, they pass electrons. Okay? So here's the four, there's three, and there's that little helper molecule, and there's another helper molecule here called CoQ10. This one's cytochrome C. So the idea is the electrons come in after the Krebs cycle, and the molecules pass the electron from one to the next, and the final output is ATP. Yay! Energy. That's what we want. That's what happens if the mitochondria are healthy. So in a healthy mitochondria, those runners, those molecules are close to one another. So they can easily pass the electron from one to the next. You get your ATP. Problem is, various free radicals are being released in that process. Okay. And as they escape, the electrons turn into free radicals, which cause the mitochondria to expand. As the mitochondria expands, those runners become further and further apart from one another. Look how nice and close they were when they were healthy. They're now further and further apart from one another. When they try to pass the electron from one to the next, they can't do it. So the electron
Mm.
leaks out. Two things happen. Because the electron can't make the pass, you don't get ATP because it hasn't crossed the finish line. Problem two is those electrons don't disappear, they leak out and become free radicals, which causes the mitochondria to expand even more. So now there's even less ATP being produced, even more free radicals until the mitochondria explode. It's called necrosis. All the free radicals spread to the next mitochondria, to the next cell. This is how you have a downward cycle of disease, of aging, anything, inflammation. All of this is because of those electrons escaping from the electron transport chain and not having something called superoxide dismutase to neutralize them and turn them into harmless water and oxygen. That's what superoxide dismutase does. I tell people it's like having a big golf umbrella. When you're caught in a rainstorm and you have one of those big golf umbrellas, you're protected, right? You haven't stopped the rain, but you stop getting wet. When you have superoxide dismutase, you do not stop the free radicals, but you convert them to oxygen and water so they're not damaging. The free radicals are like sparks and they burn out your mitochondria. You need to neutralize them, and that's what superoxide dismutase does. And that's why when you take spirulina, particular ours, it works so well because there's the highest concentration of superoxide dismutase, but it's also an enzyme. This is where we get back to the story about the heat. You dry your algae with high heat, or you deactivate that particular antioxidant, which is an enzyme. So ours works really well because we don't use high heat. You could take raw spirulina or frozen spirulina. Places like the Hippocrates Institute and the Gershon Institute, they feed their patients raw spirulina every morning, partly because of
Mhm.
this reason. It will correct the damage of the mitochondria. Because when the mitochondria are protected, they continue to grow. They continue to generate ATP for you. Think of them as light bulbs, as you would in an office. If your
Mhm.
power goes out, your lights go out in your building, and you can't do any work. Your mitochondria are your electricity and your light bulbs. And so as they get damaged, they go out. Your light bulbs go out in your body. You have less and less energy in your brain, in your lungs, in your lymphatic system. Nothing works properly because you just don't have enough cellular energy being created because the mitochondria have either been killed off. They're like your maintenance people.
Mhm.
They went on strike and they just never came back. And so
Yeah.
spirulina gives you back your maintenance people, turns your lights back on, and especially in your brain, which has the highest amount of mitochondria. So it's just pure science, knowing how things work. There's a lot more to it, obviously, than that. But I really want people to understand some of the basics so we can take the mystery away from what's going on, so they're less frightened and so they can tell when they're being told the truth, and it will make a lot more sense to them.
I love that. I mean, so many it sounds so good to be true, right? Little magic pills here. So many good research things that you guys have. And just looking at your website, I'd love for you before we start to wrap up here to talk a little bit about some of the other products that you have in terms of, skin health. Obviously, you've got your beauty bits, the vitality bits. If you can touch briefly just on both of those. And then, outside of maybe the little trial pack, where to start? Like if somebody could only afford one, which one would you
Yeah.
recommend in terms of the energy or recovery? Obviously, maybe it's person independent. What are you struggling with most? Got a lot of constipation, GI issues, start with the recovery. You got a lot of that upper brain fog and low energy and all that stuff. Start with the energy. But could you just touch a little bit on the beauty and vitality and how those differ?
Yeah. Well, we actually only sell two products, spirulina and Chlorella. And when I started the company, so Spirulina, the first product was ENERGYbits, and it was blue because it was a blue-green algae. And, I started the company because my sister had breast cancer. So women's health has always been very big to me. And I just noticed women weren't buying the products. And so I literally asked my girlfriends, like, what can I do to make women more open to spirulina? And literally they said, you got to make it pink and give it a cute name. Uh,
Yep.
and also, your wrinkles are partly caused by damaged mitochondria because they cause a free radical damage. They support elastin. It has the highest collagen in the world. Has more of the peptides than even collagen powder. So it just created a second brand and called it Beauty Bits. I wasn't trying to trick anybody. I just wanted women to feel as happy about what the product does for them as men. So Beauty Bits and Energy Bits are absolutely identical. I've got a picture of a packaging. As I said, it's my favorite. It's very pretty and uplifting. I tried to design everything so there was energy visually from the packaging to convey what this does for you inside your body. So this one makes me really happy. Women just love it. So they're exactly the same. It's exactly the same product. Then the chlorella, which we talked about earlier, is the detox, recovery, sleep, bowel movement algae that really is great for cleansing and gut health. And a lot of people we found didn't want to think about having to buy spirulina for the morning and chlorella for the night. So we created this fourth brand called Vitality Bits, which is just a blend of the two algae. So obviously you'd have to double up if you're only buying one, and then you'd want the 10 in the morning and 10 at night. And we have a lot of people as they get older, and I'm one of them. You just want to simplify your life. So this is really
Yeah.
handy if you just don't want to have separate things. And I know the spirulina and chlorella visually look very similar, but they are quite different. And if you ever doubt that you've got the right product, and people have called us and emailed us, I think you made a mistake. They look exactly like the spirulina looks like. I tell them, just put each one on a plate, a white plate, so you can see it, with some water and let them sit there for a while. And you will see a beautiful, like blue Aegean sea color come out of the spirulina because that's phycocyanin. And it will spread
Mhm.
evenly through the water because it's a water based pigment. The chlorella, which is the recovery bits, you'll only see green and it won't spread. It will clump. Why is that? I did this 20 times because chlorophyll is a fat based pigment. Fat and water don't mix. So this also indicates why they do different things in your body. The chlorophyll, because it's fat based, it heals your cell walls just like an omega-3. So very healing to the cell, chlorophyll. And phycocyanin is known for building your blood. And also, I mentioned earlier that it stops that cytochrome C molecule and kills cancer cells. It also has what's called anti-angiogenesis properties, which stops the growth of blood vessels to tumors. And that's partly because it's a water-based pigment. So you can tell that they're quite different if you do a little science experiment at home. So that's why we
Okay.
have four, two spirulina. I talk about them being my children. So I say that Energy Bits and Beauty Bits are my twins. They're identical, but
Okay.
they have their own personality. And then we have the other
Okay.
two. But yeah, they're so if you could only buy one, I always start people, well, I shouldn't say always, but in most cases, I start them with spirulina. Couple of reasons. Neither one of them have any drug interactions, and children, by the way, can take them, and I encourage you to give them to your children. But the spirulina has so much nourishment, and it gets absorbed so quickly because it's a bacteria, and you'll feel something very, very quickly. So that way, you feel confident that something seems to be working. So spirulina, every single person, especially over the age of 40, is missing. We all are missing that the superoxide dismutase. So, but at all ages, it has great nourishment, great protein, blah blah blah. If detox and gut health and bowel movements are your number one concern, for sure, chlorella. So that would be the only instance I would generally get people on chlorella. Now, I do want to point out that sometimes, not often, but sometimes you may have a detox reaction because it's pulling out toxins. So I would suggest that you start only with the 10, even if you're wanting medicinal therapeutic amounts of chlorella, just to be sure that you're not going to have a detox reaction. There is never, ever, 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 ever any kind of detox, negative impact from spirulina. So once again, it's a sure bet. And in Japan, if preemies are born and they can't digest mother's breast milk, the only thing that keeps them alive is spirulina and water. And I found out that it's partly because I think the amino acid profile of spirulina is virtually identical to mother's breast milk. I have the charts. I can show you the article. I did a deep dive on the analysis. So we know that mother's breast milk is the perfect food. So spirulina is really number two, and it came from a mother, Mother Nature. So I put my trust in Mother Nature 100% of the time. My vote for all four brands would be always the spirulina for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's helpful. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at this. I'm like, well, what would be, and this will be the last question I'll ask, what would be the harm, in terms of just doing the vitality bits that has both in there?
Well, it's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. I urge people not to start with that one. Here's why. Some people do much better on the spirulina, and some people do much better on the chlorella. And you won't know if you buy the first one blended. If you like them both and you're good about that, then go to the vitality bits. Absolutely. And you can buy them on Amazon in these small pouches for, I think they're $6 to test. So we encourage people to start slow and give it a try. And we have a discount code for everybody. Our website, by the way, is energybits.com. ENERGY, B for boy, ITS.com. They're the bits because they're bits of food. And the code is Health Revival, all one word. But you can buy the Amazon anything, but no discounts there. And then come back to the website to buy the bags are the best value. I will definitely say the bags are the best value. And if you took 10 a day and you use the discount code, 10 a day costs you $1 a day. I mean, so
Okay.
so it's very reasonably priced when you think of how much nourishment you're getting, nutrients not found anywhere else in other foods, superoxide dismutase or phycocyanin don't exist anywhere else, and have very powerful properties. So it can replace a lot of things. You can get rid of a lot of supplements. You don't need a multivitamin. Please get rid of fish oil, collagen powder, CoQ10. You don't need any of that when you take spirulina,
Yeah.
but you need at least 10 a day to compensate for that. So,
Yeah. No, I grabbed some. I'm gonna gift some to my dad, and he definitely struggles with fatigue, right? The
how old
he's had cancer now for
yeah,
he's only 74,
yeah,
and he struggled with I mean, he's had cancer for over a decade, and honestly, the Parkinson's is what is killing him,
yeah,
and it is awful to watch, and so I am hell-bent on going to doctor's appointments with him because it's unfortunate. He has his neurologist and his oncologist and his urologist, and all of them are on different pages, and it's like so I'm looking for things that is not interacting with
yeah.
drugs
Spirulina,
because that's the biggest
yeah.
and that's the biggest argument, and he
T
is exhausted all the time.
Yeah.
And so
Oh man, get them on 30 as soon as you can. My father passed away from leukemia, and he refused to take this because he said, "Well, does the FDA approve it?" And I said, "Well, Dad, do you take a multivitamin?" "Oh yeah." I said, "Well, do you know the FDA doesn't approve those? The FDA doesn't approve any supplements. They set up guidelines for packaging. That's it." But he was adamant that he should, and we lost him. So it's
yeah, no, my dad is fortunately mostly open-minded, but the problem is he refuses to change his diet. And so this is
This will look at some
perfect.
vegetables for him.
I'm like, he'll eat broccoli, that's about it. And so, like, this will get him,
yeah,
what nutrient and things that he won't give up his, circus peanuts
yeah,
and absolute shit he
yeah.
eats. And so let's try and do what we can.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to drag on too long, but I do want to point. You made an excellent point, and we run into this all the time. People do not like to change, and there's all these new diets and all. Stop doing this and stop doing. You don't have to stop anything if you don't want to. Just add the spirulina. Please, you will feel better. I can absolutely promise you that he will feel better. His lights, because it's a cellular issue. And if once you understand what's going on at the cellular level, I can't begin to tell you how many anecdotal stories we've had from people. Like they've said it was the most transitional thing that's ever happened, and to see their parent feel better, like almost immediately, that's why I started the company. That's what we live for here. So yeah, please,
Absolutely. Well, I will let
yeah,
you know if I have feedback,
please,
because I
please.
just bought a few bags, so I will report.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've got the 3-month supply coming for both of them, and mainly, honestly, I mean, I've got my 6-year-old. He does pretty good with stuff that I give him, but we're running out of our multi, and I'm like, hey, if I can get him to have this, that would even be better, but also recovery for him as an athlete. And then I think so many of our clients that struggle with these GI issues, the chronic constipation, the bacterial overgrowth, they can't tolerate a lot of foods. Like helping them through that again acute phase. The goal is to be able to tolerate foods and to have your body move bowels better on its own. But when you're really locked down, maybe you're struggling with mold mycotoxins, whatever it might be, this could be, something that is doing a dual purpose here. It's not just like I always tell people, it's not a laxative deficiency. God didn't design us that way. We've
Right.
got to figure out what's going to bring your body back to running the way that he designed us, but sometimes it takes a bit to get out of that place of dysfunction.
Yeah.
And so if we could get multiple benefits here in terms of supporting the gut, supporting motility,
Yeah.
and
Right.
all the antioxidant mitochondrial function. And I
Right.
love that you mentioned, and just to reiterate here, if you are taking something to support mitochondria, if you're switching over to this, you don't need a cabinet full of your COQ10s and all the things. But the last question, I always said it, last question, I have one more. If someone's on a statin,
It's
if
someone what?
someone's on a statin, if someone's on a statin for high cholesterol, obviously we want to get them off of those, but could this be taken in addition to, because most of the time people are taking red rice yeast or at least COQ10, if not a combination, could this be something that replaces that?
Absolutely.
Or
I can't tell you how many people have told us they've gotten off their blood pressure medication, their depression medication, their allergy medication, and for the blood pressure, because it's healing well, a couple things are going on. It's healing the blood vessels, and you have less buildup of white blood cells because of the inflammation that is going down. It also, both of them, but chlorella in particular, have vitamin K2. K2 moves excess calcium out of soft tissue like your blood vessels and puts it into your bones and your teeth. And if you don't have that, calcium is very damaging. It crystallizes. Arteriosclerosis is partly the hardening of the calcium in your blood
Mhm.
vessels. So you get the K2, you get the reduced inflammation, you get the improved mitochondrial functioning. We have so many cardiac specialists who put their patients on spirulina absolutely immediately, 30 tablets a day. And I can probably find you some I know I have some heart disease scientific papers that document all of this. It's crazy what
Okay.
this stuff does, and particularly for men. I alluded to it's very very complicated at the mitochondria level, but when I talked about the superoxide dismutase reducing the free radical into water and oxygen, there's a intermediary step which requires glutathione to work, and chlorella and spirulina are loaded with glutathione. And if the glutathione isn't there, the oxygen will grab onto any metal that it can find, and in many cases it grabs onto iron. And men have a shorter lifespan than women. This came up with a podcast I did with Dave Asprey later on, and we think it might be because when you reduce this to the oxygen water, it's grabbing onto more iron because men have more iron in them. And so instead of being an antioxidant, it becomes a pro-oxidant, which increases inflammation again because there's so much iron. A lot of men, rightfully so, they go donate blood once a month to bring the iron levels down. But you'll get rid of you'll get rid of that problem when you are taking the spirulina and the chlorella, because it provides you all with the correct combinations for when you've got that reduced level of free radicals from um, the superoxide dismutase. It's a little more complicated, but nonetheless, this is what's so great about spirulina. It's a food, and it's been created by Mother Nature. So all these enzymes and coenzymes and factors and cofactors are blended already in perfect harmony, sort of like an orchestra. When you listen to an orchestra, there's all these harmonies from different instruments, but they work beautifully. It's so different than listening to a soloist. And supplements are like a bunch of soloists playing different instruments and playing different sheet music. They don't always work well together. And that never happens with algae because everything's already blended for you so you have to worry about to take it with something or without something. It just works naturally because it's food. So I put my trust in Mother Nature, and I really would, but be sure you're getting high quality. And I know ours is high quality. You could also get frozen or fresh spirulina, but most people don't like the taste of it, and it goes bad pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's probably hard to source in terms of
yeah,
that good high quality
yeah.
for many people, depending upon where they live. Okay, so the topic here in terms of the iron conversation, I promise this is the last question. I promise.
And in fact, it wasn't.
Hemochromatosis.
Yeah, hemochromatosis genetically.
Hemochromatosis in that picture where that person is just iron overload. Do you get cautious or you're like, hey, no, this is a food? I mean, because I know for some individuals using things like camu, I love camu, high vitamin C, very, very good. But I do caution people with hemochromatosis because that can make it worse.
But what you're saying is that it's gonna grab onto the glutathione because there's gonna be more adequate glutathione with the spirulina instead of grabbing onto iron. And so then
Yep,
does
it
the
wasn't
iron get
glutathione. I made a mistake. I was trying to push the
oh, okay.
And by the way, for those of you listening right now,
She has all these charts that
go
she's
onto
showing.
go onto our YouTube channel. Becca and I look a little bit dark, so don't
Ignore that.
judge us today. But we don't have our normal producer. We don't have our producer with us. But I want this to be on YouTube for you guys all to go and watch and see the visuals because she had some really good visuals when we talk science and mitochondria and cell permeability and things like that. That's super helpful.
yeah. But
But yes, from the chemochromatosis standpoint, is there a concern
no,
with then
no,
iron
because
overload?
first of all, the iron in the both the algae are from organic sources. So please never take an iron supplement because you can get into toxicity. But so if you don't need the iron in the algae, you will just pee it out. And then what it's providing, I'm struggling. I'm sorry, I don't have my nutrition chart in front of me. I'm just blanking on the name of the other nutrient that's in there. It will improve this ability to neutralize the free radical further when it gets broken down even further. And if it doesn't have this particular nutrient, which breaks my heart that I can't find my nutrition chart, it will grab the iron and increase the iron concentration in the mitochondria, which causes further damage and more inflammation. So if you have that issue, this is actually the antidote for that. There's a great book by Morley Robbins and called Cure, Cure, and it's all about iron. I think Morley Robbins. It's very complicated, very sciencey, but it will help you understand this issue of iron. And he worked in the hospital. He was a management person at a hospital for like 30 years, and he just saw so much, and so he taught himself all this stuff. It's really very interesting. Morley Robbins, yeah.
Um, and I see that, like you mentioned with males, we see a lot more of the iron overload, high blood pressure, thick blood, right? And with the females, we see, I feel, more of the low ferritin, low
Mhm.
iron storage, inability to maintain levels cellularly
Yeah. It's
because
manganese.
mitochondrial
That's the nutrient I'm thinking of.
manganese.
You have the daily requirement of manganese in both the spirulina and the chlorella, but particularly spirulina. And if the manganese is not there when you reduce the superoxide to oxygen water, it will grab onto iron and become pro-inflammatory. The manganese is what keeps it anti-inflammatory. But both of them have the highest concentration of glutathione as well. This manganese issue is very, very interesting. And again, this is why I call spirulina intelligent food, because as you just pointed out, in men, if they have
Mhm.
too much iron, it knows how to balance it out. And for women who may have a shortage of it, it complements it because it holds more oxygen in their blood, and the chlorophyll builds your blood. I mean, it's just I keep trying to find something wrong with these two algae. Not,
Yeah.
not yet have I found anything other than it may not taste the greatest, but you can swallow it and you can get around that problems.
Well, I will tell you, I mean, so I'm 10 months postpartum and I bled for like 14 weeks and I've still been trying to get my numbers to come back up. Been doing a lot of blood builder supplements and things like that from different companies and I've seemingly not gotten them there yet. So we'll see after this one bag, 1,000 capsules, I'll get blood work, to compare and see
Yeah.
how that's helped.
Oh, please let me know. Oh gosh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Spirulina for sure. Yeah, yeah. Could be.
Yeah. And I think, okay, I'm really done. Pregnancy and postpartum. What about breastfeeding? For individuals, I would say
None of that
probably
makes
yes,
sense.
because it
Absolutely.
is
Absolutely. Whatever you are eating, the child gets while you're pregnant and afterwards through your breast milk. The chlorella kills bacteria on your nipples, so that keeps that area clean. And the children flourish. And one of the nutrients in spirulina in particular is called GLA. It's gamma linolenic acid, which is technically an omega-6. But once again, we don't heat our algae, so because it's unheated, it behaves like an omega-3. So it has all that inflammatory benefits. And what does GLA do? It builds the baby's brain. The only place with more GLA is mother's breast milk. Crazy, right? Mother Nature would not have put it there if it wasn't important. So very, very
Mhm.
good for your child's development in early years. Yeah. And if you start them now and they can even take it in a bottle. And when they start eating food, they will have the palate to enjoy it, and they'll think it's fun.
So you would just dissolve them in, like, milk or something if
In
they're
wa I would
drinking
put it
that?
in water, crush it up and put it in water, in a bottle, or milk, I guess, yeah. I have a grandnephew, and he was getting sick all the time, and I finally said, "Would you please take some of these things?" And as soon as he started taking the spirulina and chlorella, he's about 1 and a bit now, he loves them, he calls them his greenies, and they have them for breakfast. They sent me a video, he's got green all over his mouth, "More greenies!" And just like, "Oh my god."
That's amazing. Amazing. I love it. I mean, so there's just multi-purpose here, and like you said, very cost I did the subscription, so, if you're doing that, it's even
Yeah,
less than $1 a
yeah,
day,
yeah, because it's
and
free shipping.
depending upon, of course, how many you need to take,
Yeah.
but, yeah, this has been so fantastic. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and putting your heart and soul into this, and obviously, as, functional providers, I think many of us get into this work because of our story or someone in our family, so amazing that
Yeah.
you were able to help your sister breast cancer and be the light for so many people. So before we go, will you just let our listeners know where they can find you all, connect with you? You mentioned the website, but what about your social media
Yes.
channels? I know you've been on a lot of podcasts and we're honored to have you on with us
Well,
today.
thank you. Yes, the website again is ENERGYbits.com, and the discount code is Health Revival. We're very active on social. Our Facebook and Instagram handle is ENERGYbits. Although we do have a girly Instagram handle for Beauty Bits. She's very flirty and cute. So if you want to check that one out, we've actually launched my own Instagram. It's not very busy yet, but it's Catharine Arnston, whatever. And I have my own website now, Catharine Arnston, because I'm trying to do more speaking and help people understand the science of algae. So, but Energy Bits and as the website.com and as the Instagram and Facebook are the where the main action is. Yeah. Yeah. So come and visit us there for
Awesome.
sure. And we write blogs every month. So just come to the website to learn. You don't have to buy anything if you don't want to.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I would always encourage everybody to support, small business through their website, not on Amazon, but like you mentioned, if you need a sample pack or something, Amazon Prime can be a little bit, I just don't like they don't temperature regulate and all that stuff, but I get it.
Yeah.
And then use the Health Revival
Yeah.
code. So awesome. Thank you so much
All
for
right.
being here today. And maybe we'll meet you in
I hope
person one
so.
day somewhere.
Okay, excellent. You got it. And good luck with both of your family situations. I know these things will really do amazing things for you.